Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Good morning. We'll begin the day with charity. First of all, let's begin the day by thanking God. Hodu Lashem Kitov Kilon Chazdo. Let's thank God. Everything we've got, everything we have, everything that there is, everything is a big, constant miracle being created by the creator of the universe, including me and you, including you and me. Here we go. Charity. Let's give what we have to others. What God does, He gives everything to us. All right. Now let us begin. Charity. Charity saves from death. Charity saves from everything negative. Charity brings all positive things. It says the Jewish people will only be redeemed through charity. V'shaveh v'tzedakah. Okay, now Noach. Noach was not a Jew. Noach was not a Jew. Abraham was the first Jew. Abraham and Noach actually lived in the last 48 years of Noach's life. Abraham was also alive. Huh? Did you know that? Abraham was also alive in the last few years of Noach's life. That's 50 years of life. Okay. So Noah had a very traumatic experience. That was a very traumatic generation over there, and it's never going to happen again. But what did happen is that God wiped out all mankind. That's it. Wiped them all out, and He also wiped out all the animals. He really got angry. God really got angry. And it seems that man even had an effect on the animals, so the animals were also all getting perverted and woke and weird like that. And so God wiped them all out. But it's not going to happen again. Sort of. If it says it in the Torah that it's happening, that it happened, it means that it's relevant to us. It means that it's relevant to us. And that there not only there will be another flood, but there is a flood, and the flood is going on right now. And it's a constant thing that can be learned, and not just the retribution, and God is angry at us, and therefore you better watch out, you better not cry, and etc. And I'll tell you why, because there's going to be another massive the catastrophe. And that's not going to be so. It's not going to be so. At least according to Judaism, it's not going to be so. And Judaism says that it has the right prognosis. It goes according to the Torah, which is the Torah is the only time that God spoke to a whole entire nation and told them what He wants from the world for all time. So here we go. In the Torah, which is what God is telling us that He wants from us, there's this bizarre story of Noah that the whole generation became so, perverted and off the selfish, off the tracks totally, that no one was thinking about what God wants, and everyone was thinking about what they personally wanted. That's all. So Noah was the only one that defied his whole generation. He defied his whole generation. Why Noah was not the first Jew, we'll talk about that later, but he wasn't the first Jew. Abraham was. Noah lacked a certain brand of self-sacrifice, which is the very basis of Judaism. But we'll talk about that later. Here we go. So there's a sentence in the Song of Songs. A sentence in the Song of Songs. Where is the sentence in the Song of Songs? I'll tell you about the sentence in the Song of Songs, and it says like this, that where's the sentence in the Song of Songs? I will tell you. 1 second. Should have looked this up before, but I didn't, and I will now. It's never too late. I mean, maybe somebody wants to look up the sentence to see if I'm telling the truth or not. Okay, this is that Gimel. Here we go. Noah. And so this is a sentence in Song of Songs. Doesn't say over there. Oh, here it is. Song of Songs. Near the end, right near the end. The 8th chapter. There's 8 chapters to the Song of Songs. 8 chapters to the Song of Songs, and this is in the 8th chapter. And it says that the love of God that is present And every single Jew, King Solomon wrote this book for the Jews, right? The King Solomon wrote this book, and it says that this love, natural love that every Jew has, it says that water will not extinguish it. Huh? Water will not extinguish this tremendous love for God. Now, what type of water might you think could extinguish love? Huh? Now, let me just bring the whole sentence over here. Here it says, Mayim Rabim lo yuchlu l'chavoshes ahava. Great love cannot, great turbulent waters cannot extinguish this love, and rivers will not wash it away. Huh? If a person gives all of his riches in love, it will be rejected. Like we said before, the Song of Songs is the only book in the Bible which has no simple meaning. If you read the Song of Songs and you think you understand it, you're wrong. It has to be interpreted. I mean, really, the whole Torah has to be explained properly. The whole Torah, everything in the Torah has to be explained properly. It's very easy to take any sentence in the Bible, even though simple sentences, right? Don't kill. So and misunderstand what it says. But okay, here's Song of Songs. There's no simple meaning to it. Okay, so here we go. It says, great water, turbulent water cannot extinguish the love, and rivers cannot wash it away. If a person gives all of the riches of his house in love, buzya buzulo, it will be, how do you say, rejected. Rejected. I want to see a good translation. Here's a good translation. One second. I got a good book over here. Really good book. It's excellent translations in English. Usually the people who write English, they don't, but this is an excellent translation. If you look over here, Art School Tanakh. I don't know who did this. There's a rabbi. Anyway, whoever did do it did an excellent job. And let me see how he translates this sentence, just so that we get ourselves on the right. Here we go. Song of Songs. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, he says like this. He says, what is this? Yeah. 8:6. 5:6. Here it goes. Oh. Oh wow, he's got a really big explanation over here. Let's see this one second. Here we go. He says like this. This is pretty. Okay, he says, under Sinai, suspended above me, there I aroused your love. There your people were born. For the sake of my love, place me like a seal on your heart. Right, what's it going? Oh. Many waters of heathen tribulation cannot extinguish the fire of this love that we got at Mount Sinai. Not rivers of royal seduction or torture can wash it away. Were a person to offer the treasures of his home to entice you away from love, they would scorn him to the extreme. Pretty good. He's really a good, excellent translator. Okay, let's go. Says the Rebbe, there's a little bit of an of course, according to the explanation that he gives in this, and according to Rashi, it's talking about the Jewish people love God, and even if we were to be threatened or enticed or what, the Jews will never leave God, just like God will never leave us. So we'll never leave God. Okay. So let's look and see how this is translated to us day to day terms. What the translation I just gave you is very good, very accurate, right? Very accurate and very explained. It's very good. But there's 70 faces to the Torah. So here's a little bit of a deeper way, something that's relevant to me and you every day. Ready? Turbulent waters cannot extinguish this love, and rivers cannot wash it away. If we were given all of the riches in the world in love, we would despise them. Hine, Mayim Rabim, what are these turbulent waters? What are these turbulent waters that we're talking about? These are called tirdos aparnasa, all of the, worries and frustrations and they say what's a better word? Tirdos, a person's, I guess, worries, you can say, frustrations, confusion of making a living, or machshava shebe'inyani olam hazeh, generally matters of this world, right? There's a lot of people that in their life they never really knew any difficulties in life. I thank God I'm one of them. I never, for some reason or other, I don't have very much that I want, but whatever I did, I always had a house. I always had a roof over my head. I always had food to eat. I think there's a lot of people like that, right? Maybe called spoiled kids or something like that. But I always had, but there are other things that trouble us. There are other problems the world presents to us. And maybe possibly the main one could be that the world offers us a false sense of security, a false sense of security. In other words, the world is very, very huge. It's really big, and we're very small. And the world is very, how do you say, awesome, very threatening. And so we protect ourselves from the world by developing some sort of, worldview, or, false paradigms, or whatever it is. And that just keeps us, we have our friends and peers and things like that, so that we keep away from this cruel, cruel world that's surrounding us. So the world is very ominous and confusing and threatening and disappointing, and often very cruel. The world is. And all of these things, all of these matters of the confusion, the difficulties of the world, this is like the floods of Noah. Why? What's the problem? We'll see. But nevertheless, the world cannot extinguish the love, which is the concealed love, which is in every single Jewish heart, in its nature, that's what's called the godly soul. Okay, maybe nowadays you can see this even better than ever. There was just now this whole, I guess it's sort of continuing, but there was this whole thing of the Hamas coming in and kidnapping all these Jews, killing all these Jews and raping them and burning babies alive and all these terrible things. It's all in pictures. It's all in videos. They were all very proud of it, and they took it home, and so that people will watch it, instead of watching television, the news and stuff like that, which you don't know if the news is true or not. But this was true. They came home. They said, "Look, Ma." They even called up, "Ma, I'm killing Jews. I'm raping women. I'm doing this. I made a top of the world, Ma." They got to the right. So there were a lot of these Jews that they took as prisoners. The whole thing was planned out. So they took all these Jews as prisoners. So just recently, 20 of them got out. Now, all of these people that they took in prisoners, they were not religious Jews at all. They took these Jews prisoners from a big party, a big, whatever it is, rave party or whatever it's called, that was made on Shabbat, on Simchat Torah. Right? And so obviously these people previously they had no regard for Torah or commandments, or no connection with God, and those things. They wanted to have a good time. Anyway, these people were taken into captivity. Now they all came out. And almost all of them, as far as I know, all of them, they all became observant Jews. They all became believers in God. Let's put it that way. They all believed in the God of Israel. First of all, they were taken as prisoners because they're Jews. The only reason they were taken into prisoner is only because they were Jews. That's the only reason. Because they were Jews. Or they were connected to the Jews. I guess there was a couple of workers over there from Nepal or something. But mainly because they were Jews. And they were mistreated because they were Jews, and they were held because they were killed because they were Jews. Right? Because they were Jews. So these people started thinking, what exactly is this Jew business? What was I doing wrong? I was just dancing. I was dancing. What's wrong with dancing? And I exactly the opposite. I was dancing in a way that a Jew would not dance. It was on Shabbat, and it was, in public with all this music going on, and right, no one was keeping the Shabbat or keeping the holidays or whatever. Right. So what was going on? No, you're a Jew. You're a Jew. Just like Moses is a Jew, just like the Lubavitcher Rebbe is a Jew, you are a Jew, right? And therefore you're going to suffer like a Jew. What's going on? What's happening? So there were even a couple of them, at least there was one of them that I know of, that they said that if you become a Muslim, then we'll let you go. And he refused. The man wasn't religious Jew at all. What's the big deal? Say I'm a Muslim. No, he's not going to do it. They refused. And they starved him and they did. But so suddenly, all of a sudden, this turbulent waters from the world, these tortures and the pressure from the world, it suddenly brought out something that could not be extinguished. Some sort of an eternal fire, which is burning inside of each and every Jew. And if they would not have been taken into prison, into captivity, they would never know about this. They would never know about it. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but it's the Jewish people. They're compared to olive oil, and they only bring out, like an olive only puts out its oil, which I guess that's the oil of an olive is more valuable than the olive is, I guess. I'm not in the food market, but there's a lot of fruits, but the olive oil is a rare commodity. I remember last year in Israel there was no olive oil. There was no olive. There was a big tremendous shortage of olive oil. And my wife told me. And now there is, it's a very big thing. The olive oil is very healthy olive oil, but it only comes out of the olive when it's crushed. Only when the olive is crushed. And there's even different stages of crushing. There's different types of oil that were used in the Holy Temple. Oil that was used for the lamp was the best type, and oil for anointing, and those other types of oil. So it says this essence Jewish love. That's what a Jew is. A Jew in his essence, the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew is that a Jew has a soul, an identity which loves God. It's an essential part of the Jew. God is an essential part of Jewish identity. And even the Jews that are atheists, they're like, how do you say, vehement atheists. Every one of them, they're vehement. No, get away from me. I don't have this, right? Which is not the case by a non-Jews. A non-Jew say, no, I don't believe in God. It's no big deal, God exists. Okay, exists, doesn't exist. A Jew, what are you talking about? God doesn't exist. 100%. I know he doesn't exist. It's a big one. If he existed, why was there a Holocaust? It's all of a sudden he gets really excited, right, about what God is, because it's burning inside of every single Jew. Okay. He says, what is it that brings out this love, that you realize that it's some sort of a part of your personality that's totally different? Some sort of an eternal flame going on in your personality. You don't even know that it's there. It says, this is that's what's called the godly soul. That's what's called the Jewish soul. Before it comes into a body, it was basking in the rays of God's presence. And was totally united with Or Ein Sof. That's what it means. The Jewish people are called the sons of God, or the Son of God. They come from a deeper place. It's explained in the second chapter of the Tanya. Therefore, every soul is united with God before it comes into the world, but not to the same level of godliness as the Jewish people are. The Jewish people are part and parcel of the reason for creation. And the non-Jews, they're the highest thing in the creation. The Jews, so to speak, are the lowest part of the creator in the world. And the non-Jews, they're the highest part of the creation in the world. But the Jews they have an extra soul called extra soul. It's like a plug. You plug it into the wall, right? And that makes the light go on. The Jews are like the plug. They're like the two prongs of the plug that go in. They're connected to the essence. Therefore, this essence, Jewish soul, even after it comes into the physical body, and to be involved in physical, normal, mundane things like everybody else in the world. Nevertheless, and these physical things are called Mayim Rabim. They are called turbulent waters of the world. That's what sweeps us down into trying to be like everybody else, and to try and search for a comfort zone, and trying to search for some sort of stability or whatever it is in life, or it drives us just totally crazy. Nevertheless, all of this lo yachlo lechavota, it cannot extinguish from being always constantly in love. Lalot, and to raise up and to be included in its source. Adarab, exactly, but more. By means of these turbulent waters, the Jewish people can reveal and reach this highest level of unity with God before, like it was before it came into the world, while it's in the world. That's like the Holy Temple. That's the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple is a place that's in the world, but it reveals the essence of God that's above the world. The difference is that the Holy Temple depends on the Jews. The Holy Temple can be destroyed. Jews can never be destroyed. The Jewish people will always exist physically. The temple also always exists, but it exists spiritually. The third temple will bring it into the physical world. That is one of the reasons why that the Jews, number one, are eternal, and that the Jews are always pursued. Right? The Jews are beginning with Abraham, right? Anti-Semitism, you want to call it a Jew hatred, it began with Abraham 4,000 years ago. People are trying to search for the reason why. All these reasons that they have for anti-Semitism, they're all right. They're all proper. They're all, how do you say, contributing to the fact. The Jews have money, the Jews have success. These are contributing factors, but the essence factor that really is the true base cause of anti-Semitism is that the Jews are part of God and everyone else is part of the world. And the world resists being controlled by God. The world doesn't want to be controlled by God. People want to do what they want. That's the whole story of the flood, right? People just want to do what they want. They don't want to control themselves. Why should I control myself? Right? I have to live my life according to some book. I live according to my thighs, my body, my taste, my pleasures. Right? That's what reality is. And the Jews say, no, you can't do that. You know, we got messages from God that say that you're not, hey, buddy, you can't do that. You're not allowed to, right? You're not allowed to do what you're doing. Hey, leave me alone. Get out of here. You do what you want. I'll do what I want. He says, no. You do what you want, and I want that but I want you to do what God wants. And that's the turbulent water. The world resists and resents the fact that the Jewish people have this eternal fire connection to God, and therefore the nations of the world, they become part of this turbulent floodwaters that try to wash Judaism away. Now in our time, it's really very, very, very incredible. I mean, there's this really bizarre wave of anti-Semitism going over the world. It's really, truly, I mean, there's never been anything like it. Never been anything like it. People used to hate the Jews for some reason. They had some reason why, you know, in Nazi Germany, we caused the Germans to lose World War I. They really did lose World War I. They did lose World War I. It's true, and there was poverty. Did the Jews cause it? I don't know. Right? We killed, you know, Yeshua. We killed Yeshua. Well, somebody did really kill him. That's the fact, right? Was it really we killed him? Is that the fact we killed him? Yes. Was he guilty? Should he have been killed? Should have been. But at least there's some sort of, the hatred had some sort of a basis to it, right? There's this fellow called, what's his name? Thomas Sowell, I think. Genius, wonderful speaker. Because the Jews always succeed somewhere. The worst Jews, it's true that they do. But here they're hating the Jews because we're doing a genocide. We're not doing any genocide. And there's no genus. The Palestinians they're not a genus. They're not a race or a people or something like that. It's just a bunch of people that happen to live in some place that in 1948, the Zionist government decided it was going to be Palestine, right? 40, afterwards, there was never anything. So the whole thing is a bluff. It's like the non-nation that's mentioned in Deuteronomy. So this hatred, all of a sudden they just hate Jews. All these prisoners that just came back, they say, I don't know why they took us into prison. What do we do wrong? Only because we're Jews. And suddenly they started to think, hey, maybe being a Jew is something special. Maybe Jew is something Jew. I mean, it just makes everybody all angry. Why? You know, what's the point of it? And that's the whole idea, that suddenly they realize that Jews have this incredible love for God and the world doesn't like it. And therefore, the world becomes these floodwaters that try to wash this love away. Hine, Bechinas Mayim Rabim, that's what the story of Noah, of course, was not a Jew, but he preceded the Jews. Noah was really the prototype of what an ideal Gentile was supposed to be. He was the prototype. He had the power to defy his whole entire evil, debauched generation to do what's right. Noah. The Torah calls him a pure tzaddik, tzaddik tamid. Noah. And from Noah comes the 7 Noahide commandments. Hine, bechinas mayim rabim, this turbulent waters that we're talking about, all the troubles of the world and the difficulties of the world, it's called Mei Noach. It's called the waters, the flood of Noah. The question is asked, why is it called the waters of flood of Noah? Noah's flood. Noah was a good guy. Why call such a terrible thing on his name? Right? Why such a terrible thing on Noah's name? Noah's name. It should say that the flood. There was only one time there was a big flood. It says that really in the history of Judaism, it says there was another flood before that. Maybe that's where this Atlantis comes from. It says there was a flood in the generation of Enosh, which that must have been a couple hundred years before Noah. In any case, the flood of Noah wiped everybody else. Why is it called the flood of Noah? Because Noah didn't make an effort to bring to make people leave their sins. He just built an ark, and he said, "If you want to come in, and you can come in, right? You can come in. That's it." But he didn't. Okay. Nevertheless, the floods are called Mei Noah. Like it says, Asher Nishbati in Isaiah, it says, God said, I swore, Asher Nishbati, Me'avor Mei Noach Oda ala Oretz, I will never make these flood waters again. Really, the fact is, God swore that he's never going to wipe out all mankind again. So in Isaiah, it says, just like I swore that I'm never going to bring the destructive waters of Noah, Kain Nishbati, so also I swore, Miketzaf Alecha, from being angry with you, umigarbach, or to be talking about the Jews, and be angry with you, Jews. That's why it says we rejoice that the temple was destroyed. That we rejoice as Mizmor the David, that King David sang a song of praise because he knew the temple was going to be destroyed. What type of praise is that? Because God destroyed the temple and not the Jewish people. So God said, just like the waters of Noah, I will never bring again, so I will never be angry with you again, Jewish people. Kihine Noach is Neicha Derucha. The name Noach comes from pleasure. The word pleasure, Neicha Derucha. When actually anybody does what God wants, it gives God pleasure. Neicha Derucha. Shehu Bechinas Shevita. This is what is called, how do you say, resting. Resting, no problems, you're resting. When you take a rest, when a person is pleased with what he did, right? You work on something and you're pleased with what you do. What do? You sit back, I'm pleased, right? Then you take a rest. And it gives you pleasure. Like it says, like it says that you should rest on the 7th day on Shabbat. And the Aramaic translation is Nach B'yom Shvi'ah. In this week's Torah portion, it mentions 2 times Noach. Eila toldos Noach. Noach is tzaddik. It says Noach 2 times. This is what's called pleasure. Pleasure for the upper worlds and pleasure for the lower worlds. What type of pleasure? When the work is done, so to speak. Shabbat tata v'Shabbat Eloah. This is what's called the lower resting and the upper resting. Shabbat is a day of pleasure. Shabbat is his pleasure. Litaneg b'Shabbat. It says you're supposed to get pleasure on Shabbat. If possible, you're supposed to have nice food on Shabbat and physical things, but ideally the soul is supposed to rest. It says on Shabbat, you're supposed to treat it as though there's no more work to do. You don't think about what you have to do on Sunday, on Shabbat. Shabbat is a day in itself. All the work is done. Everything is done. And that's the lower Shabbat. What's the upper Shabbat? That's what's going to be in the future. That's what's going to be in the future. In the future, when Mashiach comes, all of the work will really have been done. There won't be any evil in the world. All the non-Jews will transform. They'll leave their false religions and they'll all give thanks to the Creator who's creating them. That's going to be true Shabbat, which is not the case Shabbat Tato, which is not the case the Shabbat before the Mashiach, now that we have the Jewish people. Now, interesting thing is, Shabbat is only for Jews. The 10 Commandments are really only for the Jews. The 7 Noahide commandments are not learned from the 10 Commandments. They're not learned from the 10 Commandments. First of all, non-Jews are not supposed to learn Torah, and non-Jews are not allowed to keep the Shabbat. Not allowed, and we'll see why that is here, because Shabbat is connected uniquely with the Jewish people. Shabbat is the Creator's day. Shabbat is the Creator's day. When we recognize and advertise that there's a Creator that's creating everything on the 6 days, and the 7th day, this is His day. Recognize there's a Creator. Creator doesn't need any help. Creator creates everything alone. The Creator is infinitely good. And Shabbat, we return to the Creator. Shabbat means to return also, the Shuv. So the upper Shabbat, that's when Mashiach comes, that the whole world will recognize God. But lower Shabbat, this is only basically for the Jews. Shabbat Torah, Shabbat, the day of Shabbat, this is not totally Shabbat, Kasher Yitbor, like we're going to explain. At first glance, it's not understood. What is this flood? Why did God send this flood? We said Noach is like Shabbat. Noach is saving us from the flood. Saving us from the flood. Like Shabbat saves you from the 6 days of the week of confusion. You have to be in the world. You have to work on the world. Shabbat, you're not occupied with the world. You're only occupied with God. Just like Noah. Like Noah. Noah was not occupied with the sinners, he was above the whole business. He was floating above that. Says the Rebbe, it's not understood exactly why did God have to do it with a flood? I mean, God is creating everybody. If you wanted to if God just wanted to destroy the sinners, why do you have to make such a big deal with rain coming down for 40 days? And it says that the what is it? The depths also burst through the what do they call the well springs from the depths? They burst through. There was boiling hot water, and it burst up and it's flooded. What do you have to have such a big deal for? Right? God could have just killed everybody in 1 second without a marble. God could have just stopped creating everybody. God is creating everybody constantly. So God could have just said, the people I'm finished. That's it. Turn off the lights. That's it. No more people. No more people. God just pulls out the plug for everybody, and everybody, not that they stop living, they stop existing. Or if God wanted to, can make everybody all of a sudden gets a heart attack or something like that. But God, it's a big problem for God. He has to make such a big deal with a flood, and it floods the whole water and kills all the animals. Why? The fact of the matter is, why do we have to have a flood? Because really, this flood came not to kill people or get rid of the bad. It came the tahirat oretz. It came to purify the physical world. That people would not have bad thoughts anymore, at least so much. So that the world was filled with chamas. Chamas means like destruction. That's why these Hamas people, they got that. And the world became very, very rotten, very crooked. And they had to they had to purify the world. There are some opinions to say that's where the dinosaurs came from, before the flood. Before the flood, animals could have relations with not their own kind. So crocodiles or whatever could have sexual relations with elephants, right? And elephants could have sexual relations with crows, who knows what. And all sorts of weird creations came out from that. And some people say that that could be where the where the dinosaurs came from. The dinosaurs came, whatever it was, the world was seriously off the tracks. Seriously off the tracks. And if you think about nowadays, there are, these people, they're trying to get back to it. This woke movement is trying to get back to how it was before the flood. They long for those decadent, crooked days that there were, there everything was just twisted around. So, but they can't exactly. So they figure maybe they can make a man into a woman into a man. But then they could make like a snake into a horse, with a cow, with a this, who knows what. And then from that came all sorts of Tyrannosaurus Rex and all these bizarre things that were floating around and flying around. What do they call it? I remember we used to learn about this stuff a long time ago. I forget what was anyway, some sort of flying lizards used to fly around. Okay, Lataro. And so the world became really, really sort of, how do you say, there are a lot of good words for this word, but okay, I guess decadent, twisted. Result, therefore, the flood had to come, what, to take away these urges from everybody. Every selfishness reached ridiculous measures, ridiculous the levels. Shehu bechinas mayim. God therefore had to bring water, because water purifies, it cleans. The tyratamim, the idea was not to kill them, it was to refine them, but they were so thoroughly crooked inside, they're so impure that it killed everybody, even the animals. It's like a mikveh. A mikveh as 40 as a measurement of 40 sa. Sa is a measurement. It's like a couple gallons or something. What is that? That in Torah, if a person becomes impure, this is especially the time of the Holy Temple, but even now, a woman in the time of finishes menstruation, if she's married, she wants to have relations with her husband, so she has to go to a mikveh. And the mikveh has a certain measurement. The minimum measurement is what's called 40 sa'ah, 40. Also the same thing, the flood, it came in order to refine the world, purify the world. Like it says in Yechezkel, Zorakti alecha mayim torim, I will throw upon you pure water and you will become purified. Therefore, it is called the waters of Noah. It's not because Noah was a good guy. Why should we call the waters on his name? The waters that killed so many people, and his name is because the waters were also good. Because this made pleasure for God. It refined the world, gave the world another chance. As we will talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Yes. Okay, let's do the Dvar Malchut.